bring in the Royal Caribbean CEO, Richard FAIN, for more on the path forward. Richard, welcome back.
Hi, Seema. Thank you. Nice to be back.
Good to have you on. Let's talk a bit more about the increase in bookings that you've seen over the last 5 weeks. Would you say they're primarily Americans over the age of 65? I guess I'm just trying to understand the correlation between getting vaccinated and booking a cruise.
Well, we're still in such a period of uncertainty, and there's still so much turmoil. And we're trying to read all the statistics we can, and of course they're all over the place. And I think the specifics that you were referring to was that on the call, Jason Liberty said that bookings were up at the current pace 30% higher than they were at November, December of last year. Remember, November, December was a terrible time. And so what you're seeing is enthusiasm about the pace of the vaccine coming out, older people who are getting the vaccine earlier, people over 65. So some of the things that we thought was going to happen aren't happening. They're better than we thought. We really thought older people would be more cautious. Turns out they want to get out of the house too. We thought that almost everybody was going to be an experienced cruiser because they're the ones that understood cruising and were anxious to come back.
Right.
And yet in our Singapore operation, 80% of our guests have been first timers. So we're getting a lot of surprising data as things come out, and it's mostly positive.
But all the demand in the world is no help, Richard. If the industry is not given the clearance from the CDC, where do discussions stand with the Biden administration and the CDC on getting back to sea? What's the holdup? Why is it taking so long?
Well, I think, we're just now it's coming down, but we just were in the midst of a huge surge, a real spike over the end of last year, taking prevalence to a very high level, and nobody was going to suggest that we start operating in that kind of environment. But as that's coming down, as the numbers get better, as the prevalence in societies gets better, as the vaccine gets out there more, I think that's when that's when we can start having serious conversations to restart.
But Richard, has the CDC said what percentage of the population needs to be vaccinated once they'll loosen restrictions, or where the infection rate needs to be?
No, I think the CDC and we ourselves and our Healthy Sail panel would say no one statistic is the determining factor. You look at all of it. You look at what we can do to protect people, what the vaccine does, what the testing does, and those together. And I think we're getting closer to the time when those things are working together. But unfortunately, there's no one magic threshold that says now's the day. If we reach this point, we can go. But we are coming, and it's one of the points I made on the call, that we are starting up in Singapore and the Canaries and et cetera.
Hey, Richard, I'm not surprised to hear people who have been vaccinated wanting to go ahead and sign up and get back out. I can't wait to get a vaccination. I'd love to get back out once that happens. But I think back to what was happening with the cruise lines when this first broke out, and you had ships that couldn't come back in. No nation wanted you to dock on their shores because you had infected passengers on board. Will every passenger on board have to be vaccinated? Or if I sign up, am I going to risk the idea that I'm going to get stuck out there again if somebody else who didn't get vaccinated comes down with coronavirus?
Well, I'm glad you raised that because it's an important point. People aren't so much worried about getting sick on a ship. They're worried that somebody else gets sick and that destroys their whole vacation, that they can't be isolated. And that's why the protocols that we've come up with, a big focus of them is how do we isolate cases when we have a case, because there will be cases on a ship just as there are always cases in society. Our job is to make sure that it stays cases and doesn't become an outbreak. And I think that's where the Healthy Sail panel has come from. That's a lot of our discussion with the CDC and others. And the vaccines are a big part of that.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.